Hey y'all, we are in zone 7B as we've said before, and today it is January the 16th, and we're out here. Myself and my husband is out here, and we're going to be cutting down our ornamental grasses along our ditch bank, and I'll flip you around so you can see that. Our ditch bank has been a nemesis of mine. We have a lot of erosion, and the grass has been grown over the last couple of years just to try and get it to stop with the erosion. So you see here we've got different kinds of grasses. Most of it is pampas grass, and we've had these clumps here along the ditch bank for probably 3 years now, and I think about 3 years is the average time you need to wait to actually divide the clumps. It gives them enough time to establish a good root, and then you can typically divide them and they'll do fine. And I'll get down here. It's good to cut these back every year. Obviously, we don't usually cut ours back until probably February or March, but like I said, it is January the 16th, so we're going to do it early this year. If you live out in the country like we do, one of the advantages of that is you can actually just burn this grass every year. I know if you're in the city you can't, and let me warn you, don't do that if the grass clumps are up against your house, because you don't need to burn your house down, obviously. But if it's out in an open area and it's damp and you feel safe with burning things, then burning these clumps of grass are the easiest thing to do, and they come back to me more prolifically, because what happens is if you don't and you just keep cutting them here in the center, eventually the center, because of all the dead that's left, is going to die out, and they won't continue to grow in the center. They will continue to grow on the outside, so it's not going to kill them, but they do look prettier if you're able to burn them. But another warning, besides not burning them up against your house, is when you put a match to these things, it is like an explosion. Not really an explosion, but they burn so quickly. It is like somebody has poured gasoline on these things. So be very cautious when you're doing this. Don't do it like today. It's windy. I would not recommend doing it today. Pick a day where it is not windy at all. Have some water on hand, a water hose. Probably even better to do it after a recent rain, because I'm telling you, this stuff is very, very flammable, and it will burn very quickly. And probably what would happen with ours, because they're so close together, probably 6 foot apart, the embers from this one would probably go over to this one, over to that one, and before you know it, they've all caught on fire. So that's just a piece of advice on that. So one of the techniques that we've used, and we've tried several different ways to do this, thanks whoever threw the water bottle in my ditch. We're gonna try today with the bungee cord. We have used a chainsaw. We have just manhandled it. We have used reciprocating saws, but we're going to try this today. And these clumps are not near as big as ones we have tackled before. I'm going to tell you, some of these are just, it's almost not worth the digging them up. But once they get so big, if they're like 3 or 4 foot in diameter, you probably don't want to even fool with digging them up. So make sure your clippers are sharp, and just go to whacking at them and get as low as you can, because again, they're going to come up, and I'll show you once we get these cut what I'm talking about, the centers. Okay, yeah, so you can see we already have some green, probably just left over that didn't really die out. I don't really think this is fresh, but what happens is, if you don't burn these, eventually this gets so thick in here after year of the green coming up, because next year when you cut it, this dead is going to be left. It eventually smothers out the center of the plant, but these are so young that's not going to be a problem. We did burn these last year, so this is all growth from last year. Literally, these were burnt to the ground. There was nothing left last year when we burned them, and we may wind up burning them again, which is obviously going to be safer because they're cut down so low right now. And hey, Tank, this is Tank, our garden cat. He's pretty quick, so we'll get another picture of him later. So we've got the grasses cut down, and now we're going to start digging them out to split it up. And what we're doing is we're just going around the root ball and digging it out. And basically the roots are not that deep on these, but boy, they are difficult to get out of the ground. And the reason we're doing it right now is it's been raining and it's winter and the ground is super soggy, super soft. I can just about tell you from experience, and shovel handles later, that digging these things up in the middle of the summer are virtually impossible. It is just horrible. So you can see the root ball came out. It's not that deep. The roots are pretty shallow. There's no like gigantic taproot or anything like that. Probably the easiest thing you can do at this point is take either a knife, or what we're doing is just using a spade to just cut the clump in half. There's really no way to be pretty about it. Just get in there and start hacking away and get it split up. I'll try and show you here. There's really, like I said, it's just the little roots, but it is just so tightly wound. You're wanting to dig a hole not too deep. Obviously this ground is really wet. It's been raining even today. And what you want to make sure is you don't go above the, you don't want to bury this part. This is where the ground was at, and you want to stick with that. Again, the root ball is kind of not even a round size. It doesn't matter. This stuff will survive. You just want to bury it in the ground up to where it was at originally and not go too deep with it. And basically, that's what you want to do. Definitely, like I said, don't get too deep with it, and just make sure the roots are covered. And if there's really no air pockets around it, and get it in there and get it covered up really well. Probably even just stomp around it a little bit. Definitely not going to hurt it. This stuff is really forgiving. And within a couple of summers, you're going to have this big root ball. That's what we just cut off of. So as you can probably hear, it has started raining, but I wanted to let you know what we're going to do with all these grasses that we've cut down. Probably going to use them in a couple of raised bed gardens that we're going to start this year. We've not done raised bed gardens really in the past, so we think they'll be good filler material at the end of it. And if I sound out of breath, it's because I am. Digging these grasses is hard work, I'm going to tell you. It is not easy, and definitely not for the faint of heart, so prepare yourself before you start doing it. But you'll see the holes where we split this bunch. We got 4 or 5 clumps off of this one clump here, and I need to go back in and fill it in with some soil. But what we've done is we've gone in front of the original row and adding small ones now closer to the ditch, where you can see the erosion continues. The county has been out a few times to try and help with the issue, but it's just doesn't look like a very steep hill, but it really is, and a lot of water comes down that hillside down into our yard and into the culvert, obviously, and on over to the other side of the driveway. But we're probably going to have to call it a day. We were actually we left 2 clumps of grass we were going to burn for you guys, just to show you what those look like when you did burn them. But maybe it'll quit raining this afternoon and we can come back, but if not, we'll try and get that one day this week and attach to the end of this video for sure, so you can see how those look when we burn them. So this clump, you probably can't tell it based on the video. That's probably 2.5 foot wide, maybe. Yeah, there was no digging that out. It was totally the winch on blue that we used to get that out. We dug around the clump and then kind of up underneath it, and then put the winch cable around it and yanked it out. Otherwise, that baby would have stayed in the ground. So that's just an example of when they get that big. It's basically, unless you've got some kind of tools, it's almost impossible, even though the roots are not that deep again, but it's just so heavy.